Hello friends, and welcome to yet another session of NITCO Talks. We today have a truly fantastic panel with designers and architects from around the country, all leaders in their field. We look forward to a really fantastic and a fun discussion. Our topic today is inspirations and reflections. Let me do the introductions first. To start with, we have our friend from Indore, Mr. Manish Kumat. Manish has been in the design field for around 28 years now. He established the Manish Kumat Design Cell in 1993 and has won many awards since. His office building is the smallest platinum rated private green building in the country and is also a 5-star rated Greh. He is also the founder chairman of the Institute of Interior Designers in Indore and is in the national executive body of IIID as an office bearer since 2017. Welcome, Manish.
Thank you.
Swansal Kapoor. Swansal is the design principal and co-founder at Saka Studio based in Gurgaon. She has 19 years of experience working in a diversity of contexts and scales. Swansal believes in architecture of resonance and a culture of social responsibility. She has been an integral member of the team that has revived a forest at the 385-acre Aravali Biodiversity Park in Gurgaon. Her recent awards include the IIID National Award 2016 for Residential Design and the World Architecture Community Award in March 2018 for Treehouse. Welcome, Swansal.
Thank you.
Hiren Patel from Ahmedabad. We have two architects today from Ahmedabad.
No,
Hiren Patel.
When?
Sorry.
When?
Dipen.
Baroda.
Yes, sorry, Dipen is from Baroda. Sorry. I meant Gujarat. Hiren Patel Architects started out as a small firm that has grown exponentially by accepting every challenge that has come its way. Hiren is an architect, interior and landscape designer known for his innovative designs that are in harmony with man, nature and materials. Their initial success came from designing high-rises in Ahmedabad, which is their base. Thereafter, Hiren and his team have not looked back. The driving force behind his success has always been his openness to continuous learning, the sheer joy and pride in his work, and embracing change as the only constant in life. Welcome, Hiren.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Amrita Guha, an alumni of the Vastu Kala Academy, New Delhi, and Rachna Sansar, Mumbai, Amrita trained under several product and interior designers of repute. As a beginner, she remembers being in the cross currents of modernism and postmodern classicism. Her approach is strongly pitched on sustainability, Indian heritage, and contemporary design. At Untitled Design Consultants, Amrita is the driving force behind all client interactions and also oversees the design elements of all projects. Welcome, Amrita.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Dipen Gada. I will walk slowly, but I never like to go backwards. And on the rare occasions that I do, it is for a long jump. These are Dipen's words, are his testament to the fact that his design firm, Dipen Gada and Associates, DGA, that started as a modest interior design firm in 1993, is now one of the most admired in India. DGA has made its presence felt through innovative, minimalistic, and timeless designs. Besides receiving a number of awards, it has also been recognized as one of the most influential names in architecture and designed by AD50. Welcome, Dipen.
Thank you.
Our format for today is going to have the eminent designers here all make presentations, and then we will be enthralled by what they show us and we'll have a discussion around it. We can start with Manish.
Okay. As you know, the format of the presentation is we would try to present by the slides which have inspired us, and you know, over a period of time, how this inspiration got converted in terms of memory, and then it got some way reflected in the designs. So I would immediately start with the presentation. I would request audience to go for a full screen mode if possible, so that they can see the details. Now this is a slide from Alhambra in Spain, Granada, and somewhere in 2013, I was there as a tourist in Spain, and this Alhambra, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, almost more than 1100 years old, and this typical you know, Islamic pattern which is there in the ceiling, this was done almost 700 or 800 years back. So the kind of craft, the kind of art they have been using, and the timelessness even after 700 and 800 years. So this slide somewhere got registered in the mind, and I took this snap, the kind of intricate detail, the kind of infinitely growing repetition which you can, you know, grow and enhance to any level. So this somewhere it was there at the back of the mind. And when in 2014 we were planning to do our own office, we started to do our own office designing, putting it on the board. This particular slide was there at the back of the mind, and we had to design a door for my cabin, which is just behind me. As a part of a fraction of the door can be seen. So how, you know, this memory which was there in 2013 when we were trying to design in 2014, and this was a part of the ceiling which I saw, and then when I would say how it got converted into the reflection. So this main door of the cabin was designed almost, I would say that this was a wonderful piece of craft. Almost 712 pieces of ribs were used, and 212 pieces of solid wood infills. Total 924 pieces have been used on this door on both the sides, and it took a lot of work. I still feel that India has a lot of craftsmanship, and there are people, but somehow maybe with the kind of percentage system, the craftsmanship is you know, going, the kind of patience which is required for delivering such craft is getting more and more remote. But this door almost took more than 2.5 months, almost 3 people working on it. And each and every piece, you can see it in the detail, that each and every piece of rib is different, joined together in a seamless way. And then these solid wood infills have been, you know, the interpretation, or I would say the remodification of the inspiration happened. We have used these water-based colors. Lot of Indianness is there in the colors, and this way this reflection happened. So I call it, you know, this got inspiration. Actually, this got inspiration from my visit to Alhambra. We can also see that there is a customized handle which is almost like a human form, which I call as a symbol of strength. And this together, when it become a piece in door, so it is an inspiration which we got from my visit into Spain. And these kind of inspiration, you know, directly or indirectly, somewhere or the other, it goes into the subconscious mind. And these inspirations, at times, they get reflected, and the way it gets reflected may not be the way it has been, you know, the inspiration. You can see something and you can, you know, interpret something. So this is the first slide which I wanted to show. We will take questions after each slide, or after I complete the whole presentation, we do it. How do we go about it, Vivekji?
I think after you finish your presentation.
Okay. Then slide 2 is the flying birds. Now, as a part of IID, we had to visit sometimes to Godrej headquarters in Vikhroli, and this was a wall at the atrium, wherein this wall has been done with a commissioned. It was a commissioned art wall, wherein a lot of flying birds in copper and patina finish were there, and it was a huge wall, maybe going up to 2 floor or 3 floor. This is just a close cross section of it, and then it got registered, and then immediately after that we were doing one bungalow for one of the clients, but this thing was very fresh in the mind. And then these flying birds which are moving upwards, it shows a flow, it shows a direction, it shows a positivity. And somehow this picture which I clicked actually with the mobile was there with me. And finally when we were doing this house, so basically it is a east facing house. We can see this diffuse light which is coming from the east. There is a tree over there, and then we had this small, which is almost a double heighted slit opening, and on the right side there is a kitchen, on the left side we have the living and dining. And these birds which they were flying towards the tree, in the morning when the light comes, and there is also good diffuse soft light from the top, and these birds are flying towards the tree. So on the picture on the left is on the floor, and the picture on the right, it is on the first floor. And you can see the kind of material we have used. Siporex usually we use it for masonry works, but this is again, I would say, a lot of handwork is done on it, lot of craftsmanship is there. So this Siporex was done, each and every individual pieces were cut, the birds were cut by hand. Then there were molds which were made for birds, and then beaten copper used, and then beaten copper was inlaid into the Siporex, and then these birds are flying towards a tree which is done with cotton steel. And that inspiration which was in Godrej got converted into this house, which was being done maybe after a few months. So this also was one of the inspirations which we did. Coming to the third, which is I would say way back in 2008, 2010, when I was in Indore, and then the team of designers in Indore, they visited Sri Lanka. And I would say that visit of this Sri Lanka was an eye-opener to me as a designer, because the way I have been perceiving design, the perception, that whole perception got challenged, the whole perception got changed, because there were so many challenges. Like, you can do washrooms without tiles, you can do a 5-star hotel without flooring, and all those perception in terms of simplicity, in terms of connecting to the nature, they got challenged. And when I visited Geoffrey Bawa's project, so it was that period was a very important period, when the whole I had to do introspection, and I have to see कि ये जो मैं डिजाइन कर रहा हूँ, ये मैं किस दिशा में जा रहा हूँ. So maybe from 2010 we started thinking differently, and मुझे ऐसा लगा कि बहुत सारी चीज़ों की शायद डिजाइनर को या डिजाइन को जरूरत नहीं होती है, which we are doing unnecessary. And I always feel डिजाइन में हम लोग क्या करते हैं, कई बार बहुत सारी लेयर्स चढ़ा देते हैं, which I always feel it is like जैसे वो वुमन फाउंडेशन लगाती है ना चेहरे के ऊपर, layers and layers, and the original skin is gone. So design needs to be delayered, design needs to be stripped off, so that the original things, the surfaces, the textures, the materials, the natural things, they get importance. So then Geoffrey Bawa actually became an inspiration for me. I studied all his books, and I studied all his projects in detail, and as a person also, as a designer, he ventured into design maybe after 42 years, and he was practicing as a lawyer, and then he started and he studied the course of architecture. So he became an inspiration for me as a person. His designs became an inspiration for me. And when this is one of the rooms in my office on the top floor, And when we were doing this, I won't call it a conference room because we use it for multi-purpose activities. This is one solid piece of wood which is almost 18 feet long. This is also decided on day one that I would be using this piece of wood. But then we wanted how I can, how I can connect to my inspiration. So we started looking for it where we can use should we draw a portrait, should we do a painting? And then one very renowned artist from Indore, Mr. Wajid Khan, so we collaborated together, and I requested him that I want to, rather than putting a picture of God or putting a picture of my parents or grandparents, since this is a design office, I want to put something for Mr. Baba over here. And then we discussed, he has got a patent for nail art. He does a wonderful work with nails, and he prepares installations for that. But then he said that that he is under an agreement with Italy and he cannot do a nail art. Then we thought, then what should we do? Then we came to a conclusion, why don't we use the stone aggregates for making this portrait? But then the thing is, the most important thing is that this portrait should be viewed from a distance. One, there should be a dead wall. Two, and then there should be a good source of light which is coming. These three things were important for doing this. The time which was discussed was 4 months. In fact, it took 8 months to complete it. And when this was complete, it was absolutely mesmerizing, now being covered by History Channel, Oh My God, and everybody, all the channels in the country. And the close-up is something like this. Each and every piece of aggregate is stuck in such a way, when you come close, you can really feel what a 3D stone portrait could be like. And then when you see it from the distance, you can actually see how the eyes are and how the water in the eyes is, and all these things is being done by stone. So the beauty is, you see it the first time you come, you see it from a distance. When you come close, you see it in detail, and then you just try to feel that how this is possible, that each and every piece of stone creates an expression also. And but you do it, the application is done by hand at a very small distance, but the effect happens at a distance. So this kind of thing which has emerged, and I was very happy getting and doing this collaboration. And this always reminds me of Baba, and I always feel that somehow we can do some kind of work like that which is very close to nature, and the inspiration got converted, and then this became the reflection of the work. So this is all what I have to say, and maybe I am now open to all question and answers by the panelists. Thank you so much. Yes, Swanzal.
Yeah, so as we have the protocol that we'll raise our hands will be very good. So thanks for what you shared. I just want to comment on this whole idea of, as we discussed, inspiration, how it reflects. I think that, as creative people, I think one of the biggest challenges we face is actually how to stay inspired. And I think how you kind of showed us that, there are certain images and experiences that you receive on your travels, places you go to, and there are moments when I think one is deeply moved. And I think that is what you were trying to share through your experience of the birds and your experience of the geometry that you saw in the Alhambra. But really about Jeffrey Baba, I think that, you're so right that I think he's an inspiration for a whole generation of architects, because there is something very specific about his work, which is really his profound connection to place and climate, and I think there is a certain ease to his work. I think we've all noticed when we go to Baba's spaces or gardens or landscapes that he's designed, that there was somehow in him, it was effortless. I think that's really something that I think has stayed with me, that how do you bring that repose into a space? What you said about delayering, I took a little objection to the women and foundation reference, but it's okay. I never wear any. But the point
So
is that,
true.
isn't it? Isn't it, Amrita?
Absolutely, absolutely. Manish.
So I had to say that also. But yeah, I think that is so true. Getting to the essence of things. And I think more and more, I think at the time that we're in right now, that is really what we are all looking at very clearly. That, the essence and the minimal that is needed to communicate. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Over to the others.
Specifically, that awareness, that are we putting layers in the design, or we can make the design, we can strip these layers. So I think these are very good times where we are seeing a lot of stripping happening in design, whether it is false ceilings, whether it is, all those unnecessary layers which get added, whether in interiors or even in architecture. So this stripping is, this is the stripping which I felt in Baba's thing, that, at times I also feel one thing. What is important? Is the ego of the designer important, who wants to make the building stand out? Yes, wow, this is my building. Or a building like Kandalama, which doesn't try to stand out and still it is phenomenal. Just merges with the whole forest, and you don't see where the concrete is and where the forest is. So are we trying to fight with God? Are we trying to fight with the super creator? So, these all questions, they come into the mind, and slowly I think it is always a process of journey, evolution, and we always evolve, learn, and try to, learn the things from all of us together. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, I think this idea of humility and the idea of deference to nature, these are two things which I think are critical. And I think that as creative people, because, there is a certain power inherent in the ability to create something, that it's very easy to move into a space where it becomes a singular idea and it becomes about you. But really, it's about being a medium. I think I've always felt that as an architect, you're really a medium. And if you can refine yourself to the greatest clarity to be able to receive what you need to receive, the clues from the action that needs to be taken, that is when you really create something which is possibly serves the collective.
Right. Dipen, you wanted to say
No,
something?
I do agree with Manish in terms of layers, because trying to prove ourselves, we always try to do something, or sometimes with the influence of client, or sometimes we want that we have fear of not doing anything. So I think fear of not doing anything is very difficult to resist and control. When we able to control, I think we can think, people can, believe us as Baba. So, I mean, I do agree with Manish in that point that sometimes layers are not needed.
Rather, Dipen, at times we also think, I think, that how much should we design?
I mean, we
Yeah.
have,
Non-designing should also, non-designing is a bigger challenge than designing itself.
where to put full stop is most important.
Yes. So, Vivekji, I think in case if panels are having anything to find, otherwise you can take maybe a question from the audience so that this whole session gets complete with this. If you
Yeah,
have
so
any
we,
question.
yeah, so we've asked the audience, we put it on. Anika, is there any audience question?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions from the audience. One question is from Gorangi Roy. As upcoming designers, we tend to get inspired with quite many happenings around us. How do we prioritize these inspirations and how can we segregate them?
Can you repeat the question again?
As upcoming designers, we tend to get inspired with quite many happenings around us. How do we prioritize these inspirations and how can we segregate them?
If I will have to answer, what I would say is design is a journey. What I thought as a designer maybe 10 years or 15 years back, and when I look back and I see my own projects, so unconsciously a smile comes. Oh my God, this was what I was designing. So even it is something which evolves. And as a designer, if you can just focus on one thing, which is timelessness, how you create your material palette. Hiren is here, Dipen are here. They have created a material palette for themselves, which itself is timeless. Because there are always trends, there is always a fashion which is coming in design. So how much to pick, how much not to pick, as Dipen said, that where to put this full stop. So design is a constant journey which takes place in the mind and in the subconscious mind, and a person tries to evolve slowly and gradually, and we all are trying to evolve, learning all the time.
We have one more question from Rengarajan S. Excellent presentation. Can you please share something on integration of green space and energy concepts?
That would be actually a very different presentation, because this integration of green space, now this is when we tried to make this building, our own building. I can just share that there were no green building consultants, at least in my city. And the whole, I being a Jain and trying to practice aparigraha, so we thought that we have to make a building which is energy conscious, which respects nature, and how we can harness those elements of nature in the building without talking of what a green building is, what the parameters are, what the point system are. Without going into that, that was there in the mind, respecting that energy. We cannot take energy for granted, because most of it comes from fossil fuels. So somewhere we have to take whatever is readily available in terms of maybe the sun, the wind, and how to harness it in the best possible way. So it was really a big challenge when we were doing this 1500 square feet, which is a very small piece of plot to do an office building. But at the back of the mind, we wanted to respect energy, and we wanted to use everything very judiciously.
Okay, we'll move on to the next presentation. That is Swanzal. Will you unpeel your presentation?
Thanks. Anika is sharing it today because I had some technical challenges at home. So thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to all the rest of the presentations as well. So as I was saying earlier, I think that for me, what's really central is the idea of staying inspired in whatever that I do. And there are constant inspirations. And I think this whole idea of inspirations, how it reflects in something that you create in your expression, and how you actually look at what you created and examine that. And perhaps some of what you create inspires others. So it's a very interesting cyclical kind of idea, which I think we all live with. And I'd like to share three experiences. One is really an experience, two are experiences, one of a place, one of a space, and one of a practice. So can we just move to the first slide? So I think one of my primary inspirations always, ever since I was a young child, has been the natural world. And I've always felt a very deep connection with the natural world, some of which had to do with perhaps growing up, spending my summers in Kashmir, also growing up in Air Force camps across the country where there was a great degree of natural wilderness. So I think wilderness is something that has always inspired me. And I've been very lucky that in the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to be part of a process of rewilding a denuded mining site into what is today a vibrant native Aravalli forest. And I think this experience of actually watching before your eyes how nature really regenerates itself. You know, it took 5 years of planting approximately 15,000 trees every year, before which we got to a place in this Aravalli Biodiversity Park. This is with actually an NGO called I Am Gurgaon and a group of very committed citizens. It's also brought together the entire city through corporate funding and citizen volunteers actually planting here. But the experience really was of realizing that if you make a few correct gestures, how nature can completely heal itself. And we saw the birds come back, we saw butterflies, we saw just incredible undergrowth emerge there, which when we started this whole restoration, it was just dust. And I think that, despite having this sense of, as architects, our primary responsibility being that we have to serve the needs of the planet before we serve any other needs. I think this has got expressed in many projects over the years. And just the next slide, Anika, thanks. The one of the projects that actually followed, I think somewhere halfway through this 10-year journey of rewilding the Aravali Biodiversity Park was the tree house. And I remember this moment when I first went to the site and actually stood there and saw this bare site. It's like a typical, what we call farmhouses in Delhi, which are agricultural land just being converted into residential use. And, there was not a single tree on the entire 2.5-acre site. And I remember thinking that, what are we doing? We really have to examine what development is, and what we do to landscapes. And also what most landscapes are, if you look at even how we look at landscapes in our country, they're largely decorative. They're not ecological at all in most cases. So I think this idea for this project came out of the longing for a forest in the context of a city. And I interpreted that as a kind of this large roof, which was laser cut patterned to kind of engage with the sky and the sun. So what's very interesting in this home is that it was also, the client needs were actually for an entertainment space. So in the daytime, it's a very quiet, tranquil space. And at night, it becomes more dramatic. But through the year, the patterns of light that animate the space constantly change. And I think that it was one of the few projects I feel that really have taken me by surprise in my own career of 20 years of building, where I think that as one would go to site and see it come up, I realized how quiet and meditative the spaces were, and the magic when, it was complete, and to see this kind of, constant dialogue between a space and the elements of the earth, which is the sun. I think it became a really interesting experience for me. Can we move to the next slide, please? And the second experience that I want to talk about is this idea of stillness. I think that we have spoken earlier, Manish spoke about delayering. And I think that this is probably in my lifetime the most profound space that I have actually ever visited. It was in Teshima in Japan. It was part of actually a triple ID tour last year in June. And it's this beautiful space which is built on a water spring in an island in Japan called Teshima. And it's actually built by Ryu Nishikawa in collaboration with an artist called Rei Naito. And it's so simple that it's simply it's a concrete shell, which is 40 meters by 60 meters. And it has a maximum roof height of about 4 meters. But it's a constantly organic undulating roof and floor. And what they've done is that they've just left small holes in the ground where, depending on the pressure of the spring below, water randomly emerges. And there are these two skylights which allow natural sounds and sun and the light and the greenery to enter into this very quiet space. And you enter, you're supposed to take your shoes off and be in complete silence when you walk in the space. And it is, it was just an incredible experience because, and I think Rei Naito actually says that we may sense the joy of life on earth. One of our ideas was behind this design. And it's so true because I think it was such a quiet, still space that, and so profoundly sensitive because all you were doing was watch the water droplets emerge, move across the surface of the ground and gather in these little pools. And you had to walk and try and avoid the water droplets. So it was, again, a beautiful space. And I think that this idea of stillness kind of really stayed with me. Can we go to the next slide? And I came back, and it was just barely, I think, a month after we returned, and a client kind of called in and said that they wanted a small office space in a commercial mall context, actually. And I think that, so what we did was that we actually looked at a very pared down palette, a very controlled pared down palette, which was very quiet. And I think what happened as a result of this is that it's almost like when you enter this office space from the mall circulation, it hits you. So it's like a palpable presence. As you enter, there's this quiet and there's a kind of almost meditative quality in this space. And I think the client shared with me later that, he's like, I feel like my life has changed because I don't feel like going anywhere else. So I was like, I thought that was, it was really wonderful to see how much he's enjoying the space that we've created. And for me, I think it was again an exercise in very, very quiet, but yet sparks of vitality through very few chosen elements, but an overall quietness. Can we go to the next slide? And lastly, I'd like to talk about faith. Now, this is more about really the idea of work as sadhana or work as a spiritual practice. And that's always how I've really viewed my work. I don't really view it as a commercial transaction at all. I view it as an offering, and it's always been like that. And this was an experience actually in Sarnath it was, I think, October 2013. And I'd gone with a group of friends to Banaras, and we visited Sarnath. And I think it was again this beautiful stupa in the middle of this space. And I experienced such an incredible energy there that, and it's interesting that this was in 2013 and I became a practicing Buddhist 2 years later. And it's now been 5 years of practicing for me. But I think increasingly when I look at the world today and you see so much divisiveness in the world, whether it's religion, whether it's materialism, there's so many different things that I think it's increasingly important to move to a place of mindfulness and a place of compassion, because I think when we act in that spirit, everything that we do actually aligns with a more universal consciousness rather than this idea of the ego, which I think Manish had also mentioned. And I think that is something which I've always been very sensitive to through doing very collaborative work that is less about it's never about what I want to say. It's really about a sensibility and about what emerges in the process. And I think that to me is the real joy, that, the uncertainty of, not knowing what will emerge and how every project that you undertake becomes something completely different based on who you're collaborating with. Can we go to the next slide, please? And so I did a very interesting, this is actually a art installation, which was a collaboration with a Tangka artist called Umika Vendiratha, organized by Art Pilgrim, called Transitional Spaces. And so this was really an idea of expressing my spiritual learning into a physical installation where it's called Dwara Vihara, which means the door and the abode. And it basically references something that Thich Nhat Hanh has written about the potential of each moment to actually be opportunity to express our own Buddhahood or the unshakable happiness within us, and how this space actually uses the form of a mandala, which is actually means a container of the essence. And the 4 doors represent the 4 Brahma Viharas, which are basically compassion, kindness, joy, and equanimity. So this potential, and it's interesting that in this context, Arundhati Roy has spoken about the pandemic as a portal. And I think that this pandemic has been a portal for many of us to move to a space of stillness and quiet and a deep compassion, I think, for what is going on in the world. So this was really about each door represented one of those qualities. And Umika painted each door to represent um, one quality. And so we can access this happiness through any of these doors, but typically it tends to be a cyclical state which we go through. So this is really, and it was really wonderful to actually collaborate with her. And we also looked at inverting the idea of resource and waste. So everything that was, this installation was created out of waste gravel, waste stone, waste steel, sleeper wood. The only element that actually was new was the acrylic. And we filled the acrylic with sawdust that was a product of the sanding of the wood, so that even that got utilized in creating something within this installation. And in the center of the installation was actually a healing bowl, which is not visible in this because this was taken before it was placed. And so everyone walking in was invited to kind of be healed by the resonance of that bowl. So that's what I'd like to share here today. So any questions, comments? Thank you.
It was an amazing presentation. Manish, go ahead.
Swansel, you mentioned Buddhism and you mentioned your connect with Buddhism. I was always intrigued because I use Buddha in most of the projects as a sculpture, and I have always felt that somewhere, Buddhist spaces or just seeing Buddha creates a kind of peace inside. I don't know, it is very intangible, but can you just define this? What is intangible which connects? Matlab, since you are in Buddhism.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think what you're connecting with actually is like, all the great leaders, spiritual leaders, including Buddha, I think what they accessed was a space of unconditional love. So when you are deeply connected with everybody in the universe and the desire to relieve their suffering, that's the space that you access. So nirvana is actually, so the practice that I'm in, the whole idea is not that you're going to reach nirvana in another lifetime at the end of a long series of suffering. It's in the moment. So your ability to, in the moment, be in that space of complete happiness, complete acceptance, and great compassion and love is what makes you a Buddha. So I think when you see the Buddha, if one is sensitive, and if, I don't know whether you've noticed, but a lot of Buddha statues actually have different energies. So you can actually see, because anything that's created by hand holds the energy of the maker. So I actually look at each Buddha, and each Buddha, you can tell what the energy of the maker was. You can see different qualities in the Buddhas. So if you have experienced Buddhas which have been made with a certain kind of energy, you immediately connect with it. Because within each of us is the awareness that we can reach that condition, that state. And I think it awakens the seed of that when you see it. So that's what I would have to say. I hope it answers your question.
Okay, my question, if I may ask.
Yes.
In the canopy house, which was a barren space, apart from the gorgeous canopy in steel, were you able to finally recreate what you have created in the biodiversity park to
So very good question. And I think that this is one of those, as they say, lifetime challenges. Okay, so I think that for me, I think for 20 years I've been speaking to every client I meet about ecological sustainable measures, whether it's before rainwater harvesting became compulsory, managing your water, not planting grass. So this idea of grass and the garden is a very dangerous idea. But however, it's very hard to weed out of people's heads. It's very difficult. So we did, in the landscape, we did not do an ecological landscape the way that I would today want to practice, a landscape or create a landscape, because, it's a completely different way of looking at what you're doing with the land, right? So today, I think increasingly it's about growing your own food, not planting grass, planting only native trees, herbs, climbers, the whole family of things, right? So not everybody moves in that direction, right? So the landscape in 5 years ago, so, and you know, the point is that eventually we have to respect the wishes of the family that is going to inhabit that space. You know, you can't shove a forest down somebody's throat. You know, they have to actually feel that this is where they want to be. You know what I mean? So I think that it's an abstracted forest. So what this home actually is, an abstracted forest, the quality of the forest. And we also used in the entire interior of the space a very Aravali palette, you know, like gold, gray, dull brown, rust. So it's, and actually that, you know, my learning in the Aravali Biodiversity Park is that in every season, it's a different color palette, and it's a gorgeous color palette. So we actually, I realized later, and the funny thing is I only realized later after it was actually documented, I was looking at the pictures that, you know, these are all the colors that I've been living with, you know. So it's amazing how that whole idea of the subconscious, how things get into your subconscious, right? And yes, there was grass in this project. So, I mean, it's something which I would, in every project, try not to do, but it is an uphill battle. So I think the abstraction, I think all the learning was in the abstraction and the creation of the space, and not specifically in the garden. We did have a lot of grasses, and we did have a lot of native plants also, but not entirely. So it wasn't like a complete wild, which is always the potential in any space that you're creating, but it has to resonate with, you know, the family as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll take one question from the audience because, you know, I think we're running a little behind on time. Anika?
So Swanzal, I just wanted to say I love the way you've kind of integrated your Buddhism practice into your designs and your work. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so one question from Samman Way. What is the material of the roof used in the treehouse? Also, is there any specific play being done to form different shadow patterns in the house?
So the material was actually mild steel, which we allowed to rust naturally. And then we sealed it so that it would not lose its structural integrity. And we created a fixed laser cut pattern, which was derived from the texture of a tree canopy, the leaves in a tree canopy. But what is changing is that as the sun moves across the sky, the patterns that emerge through it keep shifting in different parts of the home, on the driveway, in the garden, everywhere. And what's also interesting is that we did pick up a similar kind of patterning in some other elements through the home. So there's a continuity, you know. So there's the same screen is used in different ways in the bar area, in the pool, in one or two other spaces in the powder room. So there is a certain continuity as well, where some of it is a fixed patterning and some of it is a constantly changing patterning. So it's kind of like the tangible and intangible. Something changes, something stays the same. So I think that's what we did.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Swanzal. We'll now move on to Hiren.
Yeah, wonderful presentation by both of the speakers. Very inspiring, especially your that farm in big land in Aravali and park, Ecodiversity Park. This truly inspiring. And Manish, your travel to Sri Lanka. Many of people who has visited for the first time, and it is like eye opener. Or even Sana's that water museum is an eye opener. Definitely. I mean, you cannot explain through the pictures. I mean, one is to go there and feel it. Now, I was wondering that what to say, and there was a wonderful email we got that you will have 3 to 5 minutes to talk about on your presentation. And then I was really wondering that 3 to 5 minutes on presentation, what shall I show to people? There are tons and tons of the things. And I realized especially the group who listen to us, and they are all youngsters. And as a India, I mean, I feel that all youngster has to come up with another benchmark of the project, the kind of work. I remember when I was in Denmark and I went to I did work in Switzerland, and I was in exchange program in Switzerland so many years before. And I was traveling, I went to Copenhagen and I went to an architecture college and kind of work of students, and I saw, I got kind of inferiority complex. I said, oh my, kind of work these young kids are doing. And that's what it is. So today's time when we study, we did not had any avenue to look at because it was before internet time. So we were only had a one wonderful architecture magazine called Inside Outside in India, and we were eagerly waiting every month to get them. Now, so at that time versus today, you have everything, information on your fingertips. So you have a chance to do something wonderful. You can check upon your work and be very brave. I think, I mean, young generation just try to do, I mean, you have to really passionate about the kind of work you do and just compare, because you have every information, everything. I mean, we are doing one project and we compared our elevation with Lee Corbusier's building. We said, at least have a courage to put your building with the master's building and check. And then you know, wow, that is wonderful. Or maybe we are also getting some kind of similarity of space dimensions, things like that. So I was wondering that what was inspiration and what was the reflection. And then I realized, oh my God, in this 2 months of lockdown, I virtually live in my veranda at my home. And I thought that was wonderful, because it was like, I really wanted to do the Vipassana, that I wanted to go in isolation, stay for 10 days with your own self, which actually happened with me with my own home, doing my own things and observing the, let's say, outside garden and observation of outside garden, and I would say the tree, light on the tree, the kind of light comes in the morning, the small lilies are growing in the lily pond, and I mean, so virtually I live in a, let's say, space of 20 feet by 20 feet or something less than that, because our veranda is like L-shape, and that become our exercise place, everything. So I thought my inspiration and reflection would be only that veranda, because I would like to, I really don't want to do the big large scale of project and kind of thing, but I want to really inspire the youngster that even you have a small place, you can learn so much from there and you can create something beautiful. So I'm just sharing very unorganized mesh of my veranda. Please excuse me for that. There's nothing professional about that, but I thought that if you are connected with the nature around, how it beautifully would be. So let me just come straight to that part. Yeah, I think, can you see that, the image? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is my veranda, and we virtually live, I almost live for 2 months over there, doing a creative design, backlog of design. And then you see the morning, this is like morning light comes and there's a nice and beautiful pond, and you could see the lotus and kind of thing. And this veranda is a multi-purpose thing. So in the evening, after 1 week, we might think, okay, now let's celebrate the dinner. And my daughter and the kids were back home from their college. So then the entire space will eventually redecor, will bring the, let's say, chairs and something from the living room, arrange the table. My working desk will become with the one tablecloth, and will become fine dining table, and will decor with what are the flowers available in the garden and just put them. So that's how the things kept on changing. So this is the veranda. This was one of the early photographs. We had the garden, and it was all kind of lawn. We had a tree house which eventually went away because of it died over the time, and we had a tree house. So this was like kind of a veranda I had, and a nice lily pond when it's a couple of years ago. And then now the same space has been converted to this veranda space, where we have a green table, we call, which is our dining, outdoor dining, or it's basically my working space during at home whenever I work here. Throughout my lockdown, I virtually live into this space, and there's some space of relaxing and reading the corner, and the nice now it's paved area, and that's like a space around. So what I want to say to the young people, that whatever the small thing, try to focus with the little detail. Try to bring that, already Manish Bhai has already said that you don't have to do everything. No? I mean, just try to minimize the thing, keep on changing, check, go on the checklist, what you want. So this is like almost virtually living into the green all around. We have the concrete roof, but if you go back again on the right side, there's a little skylight. So you can lie down in your sofa, and it's raining. You see the water just like coming above, like shower head above that glass. So there are little small kind of details, and that's all. And that's how you can create space. And I mean, while staying there, I kept on doing watercolor. So I will pick up the flowers from the garden and put them, and I will try to blow them out. And so there are some pictures of the flowers, and there are the one which has drawn with the charcoal on a bigger scale. Then again, compose them, photograph them, go to the iPad, go to your Photoshop, try to recompose the whole thing. And that's how, like looking to, I read something, what inspired, how, so for me, the artwork inspired me a lot. And that's, what was that you have, I become very keen observer about that. I mean, you have read about Louis Kahn, everything, the light falls on the building and how it talks to the building and material. But being in this veranda for 2 months, I noticed the kind of sunset happens, kind of the soft light happens on the floor, the fallen leaves are so beautiful. I mean, I suddenly realized that we just want a beautiful flower to grow, but even the flower says dry and fallen down has its own beauty. It has its own soul. So this is what I realized, that there are so much of inspiration. You're next door. You really don't have. I mean, you do. I mean, no. It's like becoming like a Zen master or something, like a monk, that you don't have to travel anymore. And next to you, a servant or the Mali is watering to your plants can become your inspiration. The kind of love he's giving to the plants, and that's. I mean, you don't have to go to the big monastery or the pilgrimage to get the wisdom. So this was absolutely like eye-opener to me, that look at this picture taken from phone, the kind of light falls and the kind of reflection happens on the black flooring, and it's amazing. And then you are living and observing, and then you know that this was right, this was wrong. So this is kind of a thing. I have the 3 more of quick pictures to share. I come back again. So basically, if you see, I would say that if you see the little artwork behind, I mean, art is the one also helps you out to bring a lot more ideas. So because it gives you some message which is like very peaceful and something like that, and it's not a direct meaning to that. So that's how basically living with green and arts is become my inspiration. I have 3 more slides to just quickly show to you people. So okay, okay, that's again veranda when it's become just a reading space, because you get beautiful light there. And I mean, Dina is a dentist, and I'm just relaxed and reading her book or something like that. And by the time the sun is getting set, and we realize that now is a time to close your work, stop your working, and come back to your hobbies or liking. So the same space. What happened, because we have lots of sun and greenery, slowly everything from home started coming to veranda. So now the bicycle came because we wanted to do fitness over there. And then we pushed the furniture a little bit, so you can do kind of flooring, and I can do big size of painting. So that happened, that bicycle came, and the evening time, the Dina can do, let's say, whatever her exercise. And you can compare the kind of watercolor I did in my lockdown. Inspiration from the landscape and things like that. So from Lily Pond, there are lilies are there, and if you put in the flower vase and kind of daily object like shoes, I just compose, and it's a big watercolor. You can compare with the human scale versus the size of the paper. Luckily, I had those paper available at home. It worked wonderfully, and on the green table you can see the small sketchbook with some kind of diagram. And the same, I mean, that's the same space would become multiple space. That again you can see on table there are big paintings are there. And I will just get, I mean, this is a beautiful rug made by the Jaipur rugs from my painting. So it's there, and doing your exercise back home kind of thing. So this is where, I mean, if you're a small space, if you start falling in love, start doing detailing out, it could be a wonderful thing. And sitting in such a wonderful space, you end up doing some beautiful design. So this is like my last slide, that we are working on one project. And I mean, I relate with the big that Aravali thing. I would definitely call you back to understand more about that, because this is one plan which you have already implemented somewhere. So this is like kind of thing, it's a wish list all around what kind of tree we want to put in this project. And that's how the entire list has been written. This is only a layer of the tree plantation, not the flowering, not the shrub anymore, because I would work in layers of that. So this is only the layer of tree, not even the fruit tree, because I will work another list for fruit trees kind of thing. And you can see that there are diagram marked on that. So if this is a diamond kind of shape, it's marked on the right side. So again, in the right hand, you will see the diamond scale. In Gujarat, it is written Paras people is the one kind of tree, and there's a bush, and there are shimro, and there are so many beautiful trees we want to plant along the things. And it's almost like planting is almost like a life scale of painting for me, because you think how the next tree will happen to that, and along with your architecture. And that's how, I mean, that's all wanted to share for this, for people. I guess I was really very conscious about to give very basic space, which most of the people we have come from. So I don't really want to go with something fine photograph pictures by a good friend photographer, but I want, because especially youngsters are there and they really want to get inspired. I say, just look around your space, whatever small little space. We all have grown like that. We also had a very small, who will come to the young guy, no? Some friends will recommend you, but have very passionate. You have to become mad. You have to be childlike, curious to learn about the thing. Today also we say we are students. Most of the speakers would say we still learn. Why? Otherwise, no. I mean, why should we go to travel and see the things? So that's what it is. So any questions people have? Yes, I'm open to that. Yes, please.
So I thought it was really wonderful, Hiren, actually, and it's so true what you said, you know, that this whole idea of you don't have to go anywhere, actually. You know, the reality is you don't have to go anywhere. If you just pay enough attention to what's happening immediately around you, there is enough wonder, you know, and enough beauty to inspire you for anything that you want to do. And I think this is something that I think it's probably, if the younger people watching, I think it's a very important message to go out to them, which is that, you know, we don't really need to always be seeking outside ourselves, you know. There's a lot that you can learn within your own environment. In fact, your own environment is there to show you many things, which often we are too distracted and busy to pay attention to. And I think, as you said, when you're in this 2-month period of quiet that we've all gone through, I think that so many truths have emerged in this period, and so many realizations, and the wonder, I think the wonder and the curiosity that emerges in the small things. I think one of the statements you said that I think is really beautiful, I don't know whether you remember that you said it. You said that even a fallen flower has its own beauty and its own soul. And that's really a profound remark, because I think that there's a real lesson in that there is something to be learned from everything. And there is so much beauty that I think it's only about our own receptivity and our own openness to be able to see it. That's our only limitation. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we have an audience question, Anika.
Okay, so this question is from Ridhima. Since we're discussing inspiration as the theme today, I had met Sir at an event and I would like to ask a story where he had an impromptu moment of reflection looking at the British Council Library and created a model instantly with paper, which made him meet the legendary Charles Correa. Would love to listen to you about that experience.
Okay, okay. See, that's something wonderful. So nice. So I went in my honeymoon to Nepal and Bhutan, and I made 30 sketches. And people were wondering, did you really went for honeymoon or sketching trip? Because Dina is not an architect. And then on the way back, I wanted to come and see the British Library building in Delhi by Charles Correa. And when I saw such a simple, beautiful building, and as a young designer, that thoughts came to my mind that, oh, this is easy, I can do. And immediately second time, I thought, no, this is next to impossible to design such a simple, beautiful building. It's like like a Zen master who knows everything, and then he will make very simple thing. This is how the building. So I thought I have to go to Charles Korea and meet, because this building is so magical, such a thing. I mean, obviously from Ahmedabad we have seen the Gandhi Ashram and everything, but this was something so beautiful. So in those times, I mean, who will meet me, young guy like that? Charles Korea would, his secretary say, no, I mean, sir is busy and kind of thing. So I worked whole night, and that time there was only fax. So we faxed that we are coming tomorrow. That's all, because we did not want to hear back that no, he's very busy. Luckily we knew he was there in Mumbai. So I worked whole night because I had to catch. I had a night train. So I worked almost whole day with origami kind of structure, and I created the paper objects which pops up to the Charles Korea's building, because I thought that will become an entry to his office. I went to his office, and the secretary said, no, you can't come, and he's very busy and everything. I said, but I want to give this gift to sir. He said, she said, okay, I will give it to him. I said, no, I'm waiting, please give. And then she went inside, in 5 minutes, Korea sir came out. He said, oh, who has come? Wonderful craft you created. Come. And we sat for 1 hour. And I asked one question that I would like to share with everything, because he said, Hiren, I mean, you're from good college. I know, I come very often to Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is where my career began, with building Gandhi Ashram and buildings like that, and many beautiful houses. I said, sir, I have one question. He said, what? I said, how good you were at my age? So he said, he started thinking, he said, how old are you, Hiren? And that time I was 27 or 26 or something. I said, I'm 26. He started thinking really. And the thing which he told was amazing. He said, Hiren, shall I tell you the truth? I said, yes, sir, please tell me the truth. He said, I used to come to Ahmedabad because Lee Corbusier and Louis Kahn were making beautiful building. I used to come to Ahmedabad and I see the wonderful exposed brick and exposed concrete houses. And next day I will travel back to my Mumbai office. I will open up my drawings and I will erase, and I say exposed brick work, exposed concrete work. So that's how. So it's the learning is like even master were also learning from that. So he said, such a true, when we design, I have no idea about building exposed concrete, but I saw those wonderful building. I came back, I erased the things, kind of plaster work, and I said exposed brick work, and that's how. So it was something nice, some person remember. So be a student, try to learn everywhere. Just try to, I mean, all the good people will definitely going to teach you. Nobody is going to deny you. So be a student live in yourself. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hiren. We'll move on to Amrita now.
Okay.
Amrita, will you share your screen now?
Yes. Can you see?
No, not yet.
Your video is also off, Amrita.
Just hold on. My video, yeah.
You have to share.
Start my video. Can you see now?
We can see you, but we can't see the screen.
Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, so is there any way I can switch off my video there? Okay, so me and my partner, we started our design journey almost 2 decades back. So what today I'm going to present is something called our craft story. We are hugely inspired by the crafts of our country, and we have been, honored to always have some or the other craft as a part of all our projects. We try and incorporate a minimum of 7 to 8 crafts in every project on a very, very conscious level. So our craft story is the sensory stimulation that turned an inspiration into a lifelong passion. So me and my partner Joya Nandurdigar, we started and we have been the recipient of Triple ID, AD50, and very recently El Decor as a part of our design journey. So I will start with something called Shola Peat. Now, having been born and brought up in Kolkata, and as you know, which is in Guinness Book of World Records, the Durga Puja of Kolkata is supposed to be the world's largest street art festival. I don't know how many people know about it in our country, but that is what it is. And having grown up and seen the various artists working in different material, Shola peat being virtually one of the most commonly used material. When we started exploring the nuances of a lot of crafts to be used in interiors, this is something that we wanted it to be very much a part of. So a few images which I am going to present to you has won us one of our AD100 award. So it's based on Shola peat and concrete. So it's the yin and yang philosophy. So as you see, it's a nest of table which has a concrete base, and Shola is basically a reed. It's a reed that grows in the marshes of Bengal. And it's a very extremely delicate material to work with. But at the same time, it is profoundly liberating to see what the people are able to create. And as a designer working with the craft sector for more than 2 decades, I feel we are nothing without the craftsmen. They are the people who turn the ordinary into extraordinary. So in this, as you can see, these are tiny Shola flowers, which are all created by hand. It has been sandwiched in a platter, which we have created. It's a cast in situ concrete platter. And it has a very simple metal base and a wooden member. The other part is again a ceramic, wood and metal. So this is another one which has, it's a peg table. It has, again, Shola, we call them Shola flowers, but they are basically Shola details created in various, it could be geometric, it could be paisleys, it could be different patterns. And again, it is a cast in situ concrete with a wooden structure as the base. Because Shola, of its delicacy, it always needs either a glass or an acrylic medium. So the top here is a glass, which we have given. Now that's a Shola light. So the basic structure is basically metal. It's a combination of 2 types of craft. One is called Thateras. Thateras is a craft which originated in Punjab, and it's how metal, basically they were utensils which were crafted out of metal, and it is a hammering technique. So now, I mean, that's how the origin of the hammering technique is. Not many people realize that it's out of utensils that the technique started. So here again, the light is hidden behind the metal beaded plate. It's a curved plate, and the Shola flowers or the Shola motifs are again sandwiched between 2 pieces of glass. And it's a very, very fine metal ring which surrounds and which supports both, which is against a concrete wall. So it just adds on it beautifully. So that is again another one, which is a log table, wherein this is an Indian rosewood which has been used. It's layered with another a slim structure of concrete. And these motifs which you see, the Shola motifs that we have used, were principally the motifs which were always used to adorn the bride on the wedding day. So we call it topor. In Bengali, we call it topor and mukut. So this is what the Bengali bride wears during the wedding. So we have used that as a part of the concept for a table, which has its own layering, and even this tiny little space you see here also has another little shola material. So it is how we take an ancient craft. So the idea is that a craft is being passed on from one generation to the other as a cultural legacy, to live through the test of life and to sustain itself in ways we cannot fathom. Be it the embroideries of the Kutch, Madhubani of Bihar, or the Sebai grass weavers of Orissa. Every craft will have its own story and its own narration. But, our country, we possibly tend to not be so conscious of the fact that we are, let's say, the dharohars of these wonderful legacy that has been, handed down through generations. But consciously, if all of us try and incorporate, then we can save a lot of crafts which are dying on an everyday basis, now even more. My second inspiration is nature inspired. So like Hiren said, that you look around, you don't have to really step out of your comfort zone or travel all across the world to be inspired. We can be inspired right here in our surroundings. So cactus is one storyline which inspired us to create certain pieces of furniture. Fabric pleats. These are the two inspirations which I have been able to incorporate in this particular living room. Now, if you see the coffee table is basically a cactus inspired. It has the base which is inspired from cactus. So there are four sculptures, and all the four sculptures have a connection as the top of the table, which has been kept as a medium in mirror, which is a 0-0 medium, and it doesn't really attract your eye, and the focal remains the base. So the existence of the base is the focal point here, and the top merely reflects the surroundings. And if you see the bar at the corner, that has been inspired from fabric pleats, or you could say the pleats of a sari. So again, this is also the same technique that we have used as Dhateras, and it is the whole material, which is brass, has been pleated, and this is all hand done. It has been pleated to create the element and the ripples that you see in the particular furniture. The third material, the third element in this room is a console. Now, the console has a base, which is primarily a huge log of wood. The log of wood was the byproduct of a tree which was cut down behind our site, and the MCD people were taking it away, and which we decided to use and we decided to create a console by just using glass, 19 thick glass, and the tree being the focal point here. Again, a sustainable approach towards design. So when we are creating furnitures and interiors, we always try and see what is it that we can create which we have not done before. What is it that we can create, you know, that is an inspiration from all around us. I'll move on to the next presentation. The inspiration was a junk pile, which we very often see when we are going to these junkyards. And as a matter of fact, whenever we have explored furniture design, we have always tried and seen what are the other options possible that we are, we are able to create something new. So how can we create thoughtfully out of waste, and how much do we really need? It's a small step towards rediscovering our design approach towards an ethical and sustainable future. So this is an image of a railway carriage. What we have been able to create is this. So the artwork that you see behind the bar, this is a bar unit. Again, the column was obviously there as a part of the layout, which we could not avoid, but we took it up as a challenge to create a bar unit which would look like a part of the entire space in a very, very organic way. So the entire composition was crafted out of microconcrete, MDF and Thateras panels. The background is art created out of junk pile, and then it has been spray painted in a teal color. Not something which is very, very expensive. And at the same time, we always try and use a lot of young artists. It's very, very important for us as designers to, always give a chance to these upcoming young artists. They just need to express themselves. And every time we have explored new artists, we always seen that we've always come out being surprised as to what they are able to create. The springs out of the railway carriage that you see are the springs which we have used in the bar stools. Thankfully, we had a client who was, brave enough to let us venture into this space and let us create something that we really, we were also not very sure how it's going to turn out. But luckily, it did turn out to be something of a delight to the client as well. And, we were able to explore the nuances of craft and also a sustainable approach towards using material, which would be ideally otherwise just lying and accumulating over the years. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amrita. Questions?
I had actually a comment and question.
Yes.
Thanks, Amrita. As always a pleasure to see your work. Now, actually, what I wanted to share is two things.
You're on mute.
Sorry,
Yes.
Amrita. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute. I said, thanks. Always a pleasure to see your work. So I want to say two things. One is, of course, I would really loved your junk pile inspiration because you know that I've been working in that waste space as well.
Absolutely.
But more interestingly, I think that, when one looks at this idea of kind of inverting what waste means and making it into a resource, it requires two things in order to actually be able to do that in a project also. One is that a certain amount of adventure the client is capable of receiving, and a sense of humor also in a way. So, I know that, so that's one question, but related to that, so I want to just ask you that the project that you shared with us, where you've done this little lovely niche in teal with the upcycle waste, how many of your clients do you think would really be open to this kind of, I would say tongue-in-cheek art in a way, right? And the second question or comment is that, and one thing that I think both you and Joya have been doing very beautifully through the years is this idea of how craft is still so relevant and so contemporary in our lives, and the collective memory that it really represents, But a question related to that also is that, sometimes, and this is something we have to be wary of as designers as well, is that, there was always a meaning to a craft. Craft always belonged, as you said, like the Shola Peeth, there was a reed, there was a resource that was available in nature, and therefore it became the thing to make in that place, right? So
Right.
the only concern that sometimes strikes me about craft being reinterpreted for modern living is that it's very important for people to realize that that story and that narrative is now coming into a new contemporary space, but in an urban context where you are actually bringing in crafts from many different cultures. You know what I mean? Like one is
Right.
Gond, one is, and I've done that too. Like I've used Gond art in a Kur context because client really connected with that art and therefore we brought it in. So in some ways, there are some connections that we inherently have that we want in our space, right? But there's also that idea of how integral craft was to living at a point in time. You know what I mean? So there's a little dichotomy there. So I want you to comment on that and on the earlier question about sense of humor. Sorry, they're both slightly tricky questions.
Okay, the sense of humor, you're absolutely right. Not only a sense of humor, they need to be brave enough to accept it, like I said. Because you're absolutely right. Possibly 90% of my clients would not have that.
Yeah.
If they have the budget, they would rather go for a typical art, a wall art from a certain gallery, which would again be a representation of what their budget allows. First and foremost, every project for us has been a challenge when it comes to the orientation of craft and how the craft can transcend into interior space without it speaking the language that has been there for generations. So what we are very consciously trying is to reinterpret craft. If you see what Shola has been typically used
Yeah.
for in all these years, and what we are trying to create out of Shola is something which has really not been done. Like Shola furnitures, when the Shola people who work with us, when they heard us, so for them it was like, how is that possible? So there is a lot of R&D that we do ourselves, going to these back and beyond places for days, sitting with them, getting prototypes developed. And I mean, not every time a prototype is successful. So similarly, for us to be able to get young artists and let their expressions be a part of our interior narration has always not been an easy job. However, I would say we are still blessed that looking at our previous work, and thanks to Architecture Digest and Triple ID more than anybody else, I would say the fact that the awards always make clients do realize in a very small way that okay, they might be doing something right. The fact that Triple ID has recognized and AD has recognized and L Decor has recognized. So those are our leeways into convincing a client in a certain way, I would say. And regarding your second question, Swanzal, you'll have to.
No, you answered it. You already answered both the questions. And I want to just say one related question that, when just do you ever send pictures of what you finally created to those crafts people who you
Of
collaborate
course,
with?
of course.
And how do they
Not
react?
only that,
How
for
do
our,
they react?
oh, they love it. I mean, for them, it is an inspiration to create newer things.
Yeah.
It's always so. Most of these crafts people, when they are creating larger installations, they don't even have a space to stay. So in our factory, we have a room, we have an area where they come, live with us, work there, so that it's a very organic way of working. For us also, we learn so much. So
Yeah.
there are days that we are sitting with them for days on end, and we are brainstorming in the studio, or we are brainstorming in my factory. We are doing sketches, we are doing things, and they live with us for 15-20 days, a month, and then they create something. When they create something, they themselves are not only delighted, they are surprised. And now, because of mobile and because of WhatsApp, they can't stop sending these images to the villages and saying that, oh, look what we did. And if you have noticed, Swansel, in all our presentations, when we do, every name is there. And in when we give the triple ID presentation, also the name of the people who have created is always there, that what has been created, how, and one day we would like to document all,
You should, you must.
the
In fact,
entire story behind,
in
how
fact,
a certain.
yeah, it would be a great idea to also, promote these resource people, for the entire interior design community to connect with and look at how much wider their reach can be.
We are
I mean, I
doing
think,
that.
yeah, you should
We
really
are
do
trying
that.
to do that in Hand for Handmade. What we are trying to do is not only that, we are trying to get the colleges. Like, I recently was a part of Amity Global. We were invited to talk about our work, and instead of talking about a general project, we spoke about craft. And the kids, the students, were so excited that that we have been now, the Hand for Handmade people. We are all, Jaya Jetli, Anjana Somani, we are all trying to make it as a part of a curriculum for colleges. That
Yeah,
is where I feel
absolutely.
is very, very important, because when we see young people coming to the studio, be wanting to be a part of our organization, and because we work so much with craft, and I see that they have no clue. I mean, something as simple as Madhubani, something as simple as Gond, they have no idea what it is about. So I very strongly feel that it should be a part of our education system. That's the only way we can help karigars. That's the only way we can make, awareness is the most important thing.
And
Thank
I
you,
think,
Amrita.
yeah,
Thank you, Amrita. I think we'll have to
yeah,
move
we're
on
out of
because
time.
Yes.
we're quite over time. So we'll move to seeing what Dipen has to show us. Thank you, Dipen.
I agree with Chandraji, because I think we are running out of the time and people are also living very fast. So nevertheless, I'll do as quickly as possible. I think what I've understood and what three architects I have chosen, and they are really mentor for me or inspired my entire design journey. Other than that, there are four more right now in front of me, and everyone's work and theory and everything is really worth listening to. The most important, how Manisha started with the layer of design, and I strongly believe, because till 2000 or 1999, I have done base civil, and then somehow I am into this field, and then I was I was doing good, but um, there was no direction to my work. So we were doing good work and people were appreciating, and the cycle was going on. But the major change came after the Design Sutra in Bombay, which is in 1999, and it is part of Netcon. I mean, earlier it was Design Sutra. So while listening to many eminent architects and people over there and meeting lot of brains over there, I have realized that what we are doing is something which is run of the mill or just to run the design practice. And we were quite happy with working in Baroda, small place, and people were appreciating, and there was no vision because the vision was limited. But while listening to many others over there, and particularly first time when I've listened Tada Wando live and interacting with him, I think a major change came in the life. Also, I put my panel over there and I saw the other panel which people have kept over there, and I realized that how shameful my panels were. But nevertheless, I understood that where we are, where we were, and where the people are. So I think everything is a journey, and I would quickly go with the few things. Sharing of screen right now. So Tada Wando is one because I always see that he must have done a lot of things being his post, but he has so muted and he has explored this material like anything. And whenever you see his project, you'll feel nothing but lot of things over there. And that has been really inspired in coming days, that how we can use the core material of architecture into our practice. Later on, when we have revamped our office, first I've tried on myself that how we can deal with the concrete. And by failing lot of time, but achieved some new articulated concrete and understood the pros and cons of concrete. Because concrete is really nice to see sometimes, but it is very brutal. Also, very reflective. Also, it is very silent. Now, in Japan, the DB of people over there, the overall discipline over people over there is very different than what we are in here in India. So dealing in concrete is so fascinating in earlier days, but we realized that it is not so easy. Also, you have to train a lot of people to work on the best of the quality. And that is what we have realized when we have actually adopted concrete in our project. These are very, very big and has been decided few slides. So many concrete work we have done, and I think we have achieved quite a lot of quality in terms of workmanship, in terms of articulation of concrete, in terms of understanding of material, in terms of acoustic property of the material. And we keep on evolving ourselves that what we can do even better. So these are few, there are many more which one can see how we have played with the concrete, but how this muted material is having a strong presence in overall, and how it is merging with the nature when it is being used in right proportion. So Ando is the one who has inspired us a lot in finding our direction to work on. Another architect or a designer who is favorite of everyone is, of course, Baba. And I've seen his work on net a lot. Fortunately, last year, and for so long, I was inspired with a lot of his work. Unfortunately, not able to visit any of his site. Last year we visited, and then I've understood what is the strength of his work. There are so many areas and so many silence or so many integration of architectural to the nature, and somewhere he has left the design on nature, and he has left it. You can really see that he has not tried to attempt everything the way we otherwise used to do. So when somebody is respecting the surroundings, somebody is respecting the nature, then the things are very different. And I believe that he's one of the most inspired architect for many who is believing in collaboration or to respect the nature and surrounding. And one Indian, and you can see how serene these environments are without attempting the layers, or as rightly Manish has given new word, layers, which I will definitely adopt now onwards. And one more designer, our own Sandeep Khosla, who has always been inspired since long. I mean, I met him long back during my chairmanship in Baroda, and the way he explained his design, the way his design is having an experience. Then we have visited his house and a few places, and the way he is respecting the surrounding, the nature, the lights, and sometimes the approach of minimalism. So the calmness, what one can feel, and this is what is really inspirational for me. Along with all these great three masters, there are many more which we keep inspiring. This is what we have attempted at one of our project, which is called as Nirant. So the Nirant is what you become at relax, at ease. Nirant is a Gujarati word. You may be knowing, few of you might be knowing the meaning. But again, we have tried to adopt art, interactive art, nothing doing, the boldness of doing nothing, very simple plastered wall which has a texture and only one opening, an entire inward house, which our idea was that over the period of time we wanted to merge, or we wanted that nature should take over this house and it should cuddle. And this is what is happening now. So the nature is really taking over now. The house is gradually disappearing in the nature. We wanted this to be vanished in totality. We wanted that the existence of what we have made should be merged with the nature. And these are few earlier images when it has been inaugurated. And this is how now nature is now taking over. Gradually, I believe that almost everything will be part of nature. And that is what we are looking forward. We also wanted that what we can design where actually we bow down to all our surroundings. This is one of the area which is highly inspired with the architecture of Greece. This is part of the same project where the water body is being placed in northeast. But the idea is overall of a serenity, overall of doing nothing, overall to balance and play with the basic and fundamental material. There are many more things to share. Looking to the time, we have selected few images. This is what our small ideology and design story is. So this is what from my side is. Thank you.
You're on mute.
That was fantastic, Deepen. Really enjoyed that house, especially the concrete, and then it's all becoming green. Amazing.
Thank you.
Amrita.
So Dipen, how come your own house is not an exposed concrete house?
I was having less budget.
Yeah, I can see in the expanse of the house. The budget was extremely tight.
Budget was extremely tight, and it was so, we were doing gradually. So the way people give us money a little bit here and there, and we said, okay, let's do something a little more. And one of the reason why we have surrendered to the nature, that nature will do its own work. So, I mean, no, but my concern was because we were quite known for concrete and people were expecting everything that we should reflect. But every new step when we tried, we thought let's break the barriers. Let's move forward than what we were doing. Let's try something even more simpler. And that is why we have selected really, really basic material like plaster and paint it. That's all. We wanted to try nothing doing. And that's why, the museum project of Japan is something which is beyond. It is something where nothing is there, but one can feel that everything is there. I mean, the silence is a major design, and it is a courage of a designer where one has to go with certain kind of experiments. So I think we have to understand the way people have explored the world. I mean, we are all inspirational to us.
I just want to have a comment, Dipen, on what you said about Tadao Ando, and how we all grew up in architecture school seeing all these images of his work, right? And it's only when you experience his spaces, because eventually architecture is really about how you feel within a space. There's something you can gather from a visual representation and a different thing from experience. And to me, the eye opener was that when last year we went to at least 4 of his projects from different scales, completely different scales. And I think what one doesn't realize often when one sees images of his work, because concrete has got such a powerful presence as a material, right? And is that Tadao Ando's work is actually quite gentle and organic. Like we all associate Ando with the grid, the grid and those 4 joints, the shuttering joints. But he really has managed to take a material which is quite brutal in a way. Concrete is a rather brutal material. In many ways, it's not really an ecological material either, because, it has issues with, porosity and heat generation, but it's a beautiful material, which he's used certainly in huge scales across Japan. But he manages to explore a certain gentleness and organic quality in the concrete, which you only realize when you're walking through his spaces, that what sensitivity there is in his control over line and volume, which transcends material. So I wanted to share that with you. I don't know whether you've actually been to Japan to see his work, but if you haven't, you must go.
Yeah, we have been to one of the development in UNESCO building in France. And, one more thing, when we have actually started using concrete, there were a lot of issues with the reflectivity of concrete in terms of sound. And when you work with the minimalism, what he is adopting, he can only survive in Japan because the people are disciplined over there.
Yeah.
If you do the same design in India, it will become chaos because our voice, our volume, and our ha he he, when everything within that space will be a chaos, and it will be very, very difficult to handle. Whereas when we have worked on concrete, and when we have realized the problem of echo, problem of acoustic, and then we saw that how he's handling. And I tell you, I promise, and I bet you, it is difficult for him also to work on this, because he is to be in Japan, otherwise he could have been failed. So in India, what we have to do is we have to balance this concrete with some other material and the sound absorbing barriers or some texture. And that is what we've learned, because when we visited this Peace Center in UNESCO building in France, the echo was so high. And that's what we were just assuming, but we have realized that we cannot even do a chutki even.
Yeah.
I think it is all controversial, but at his place is right, and his plant and his contextual. So it's very much contextual, but concrete has given us a direction to work on and to identify some language which we have tried and blended with the other materials. Also, sometimes pure concrete is very gloomy and very disappointing. That's what I've realized, because at even evening or night, that entire area become very gloomy.
We have a question for Dipen. Anika?
Sir, as we see how the nature grows to actually cuddle the house, as you said, I see there are very few openings on front to actually get that outside-inside connection. Would like to know your comments on this.
Yeah, good question, because this house we have made very much inward, where we wanted to become actually zone. There are few images. There is one area which is protruding out in shape of triangle, and from where you can be completely in connection with the nature. So unfortunately, that photograph is missing, which is there on our website. But it is also made on the climatic responsive design, where wall is facing to southwest, which is very harsh. We wanted to control the heat with the cavity wall, and we wanted the narrower opening to get the breeze of air, which passes through and get out in the northeast direction as fast as possible. And we wanted that indoor outdoor change, where people are there to outdoor and they connect from one area with complete outdoor, but at the same time we want that introvert house where we can control our emotions and the cozy feeling inside. And very much based on the client or need of the client, and client is myself. So
Yeah, so building an experiment with your own house is always wonderful, because it's a live canvas for most of the people. So as Vipin said very rightly that yes, I'm sure when he drafted the layout, he must have thought of concrete. But then no, it's like people are always asked that we would like to come and see your house, and I say, see, my house will be more simple, because I always compare the architect with the master chef of the 7-star hotel, and I say he will make n number of recipe at the hotel, but when he will go back, he will cook basic sabji or dal and chawal, that's all. But that dal has to taste wonderful, and that's what it is about. So most of the designers would filter out most of the things back home and try to minimize it, and they will be very courageous to do an experiment. So I'm sure after 5 years, if we go, Dipen may think of something different. He may come with a bold idea of breaking that wall and creating something else. I mean, that's the light canvas. So absolutely, it's experimental and keep on doing, or he may add something more into that. That's how people keep on evolving most of the, I mean, we have seen Jeffrey Bauer's work. I mean, from the 3 houses, and he connected one after one, and he created such a wonderful oasis of his own.
So the Lunaganga garden, which is created over the span of 50 years,
Right.
you can see the fruit of it. And he's not there to cherish that garden, what he has created, but people are really going there and meditating themselves, be that part of that area. So I think it's a journey and it's part of everyone's life. As Hiranbhai rightly said, that our work is the most difficult, but then we can experiment on ourselves, which we can't on client number of times.
I think we'll take one last question from Manish ji. Manish ji, you are on mute. You will have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. It is not a question. I could actually not resist commenting, because with the times in which there is so much noise outside and then there is so much noise inside, to somewhere I think design has this power to create serenity and to create silence, not only within but also outside. So being sensitive designers, the kind of work which Dipen has showed, somehow whatever it is, irrespective of material or something, there is some nature, and there is the moment you see, we feel the silence when we see maybe Hiren, Dipen and Swansel's work. So there is this feeling of silence which comes, and then design becomes such a powerful tool to create silence within and transform it outside. So this is something which really I feel design has such a wonderful strength in doing this. So it is more like a compliment and a comment rather than a question.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, especially Manish ji, for organizing the panel. And this talk has gone longer than any other talk of ours. It was very interesting, very exciting, enjoyed. I think everybody has enjoyed it very much. And may I extend an invitation to all of you whenever you are in Mumbai after all the lockdown is over, come over home and we can carry on from where we are letting off here.
We would
And,
absolutely look forward to that.
Thanks so much. That would be
Thank you
lovely.
so much.
Yeah, Vivek ji, it is so nice. And then the best part is the panelists, because I think all are like-minded, all are having certain level of integrity towards the sustainability and nature and everything. And earlier, Anika was after me to, do something. And when I saw people, I think I was not the right person to be part of it. But now it is really fun talking to people who are really like-minded. And Amrita, you are really inspirational for us because we have just thought of to put in ourselves into product design and something like that. But
Absolutely, Dipen. Please
then, and you
have my support as much as possible.
absolutely, yeah.
And thank you, Manish, for bringing all of us together.
My privilege, enjoyed it thoroughly. It was fun.
Yes, I think it was wonderful.
And thank you, Hiren, for showing your private space. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a gorgeous space. You don't really need to go out and work at your studio. I think the best thoughts and the best ideas would come within that space while you're sitting there. It's a very meditative space.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. You are invited home at any time. Once everything is normalized, you come to Ahmedabad.
All are invited to Baroda, a small city, or even Indore is a small city and little bigger is Ahmedabad. But you can feel the difference other than Delhi and Bombay for sure.
I think, Swansal, that is guided towards you and me
Yeah, yeah.
because of our last conversation.
Yes.
I can feel it, Dipen.
No, but you can feel the experience of the place. I'm sure you'll love it.
Rather, I
Thank
would
you so
say
much.
that,
Thank
Swansal,
you so much. Thanks.
rather, I would say that
Thank-
now these are the monsoon times. Everybody should go to Mandu. We all should go to Mandu
Yes.
and be there for 2-3 days. I can assure you that it would be something which no one will forget. But we have to stay for 2-3 days and experience Mandu in rains. I think I already told to Amrita long time back.
I know, Manish. We've
Have to
had,
do this.
we must do this. I think you should do a triple ID trip.
No triple ID. Let us, we who think alike, we should all plan.
Absolutely. That's something that's in my bucket list, and I've been dreaming about, Mandu in the rains. I mean,
Thank you so much, everyone. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much,
Talwar.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anika, for
Thank
all
you,
your
Mr.
hard
Kumar.
work
Thanks,
and
Anika.
effort.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.